Needs one.
Yeah, you came around.
Folks, so if I can have everyone please be seated, we will start the meeting in about 5 minutes. To be honest, okay, it's 1:30. Okay, being that it is 1:30, we are going to go ahead and call the commission briefing to order. Good afternoon and welcome to this December 3rd Tourism Commission briefing. To everyone who has joined us here today in Rhododendron and to those joining through the Travel Oregon Industry YouTube channel, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Today's meeting materials, including the agenda and supplemental material, can be found on the Travel Oregon Industry website if you'd like to follow along. Commissioners, I'd like to acknowledge that in holding a meeting today, we have met all public meeting notice requirements provided by state law. This included the notice of an executive session which was held earlier today. Per statute ORS 192-6602D, the meeting was held for the purpose of reviewing and evaluating the employment-related performance of the Chief Executive Officer of any public body, a public officer, employee, or staff member who does not request an open hearing. No decisions were made as the Commission will take action during tomorrow's meeting. With that, I'd like to begin today by asking each commissioner to briefly introduce themselves, and I will start with Commissioner Hill.
Good afternoon. My name is Travis Hill. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Umpqua Indian Development Corporation, which is the Section 17 for the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians, located in Roseburg, Oregon. The Section 17 is actually the parent company for Seven Feathers Casino Resort Hotel, and so pleasure to be here today. Great to be in fantastic weather in this region. Love Mount Hood. Always come up here with family, catch all the different mountains, and looking forward to the next day and a half spending up enjoying the environment.
Hello, my name's David Pendleton, and I'm the owner of America's Hub Tours and Oregon Tour Experts.
And I am Erin Stevenson. I'm from McMinnville, owner of the Atticus Hotel, 3rd Street Flats in Cypress. So excited to be up on Mount Hood today. It's beautiful. Thanks for having us.
Hi, good afternoon. Scott Youngblood with Solterra Development and Cascada Thermal Springs and Hotel in the Alberta Arts District. I'm losing my voice, and I apologize for that. It's not because Cascada is the best kept, now open secret in all of Portland. Grateful to be here in Clackamas County, born in Clackamas County, lifelong resident of Clackamas County, relocations notwithstanding, and really excited to be here in this venue specifically. For 2 decades, this was our meeting space when we would drop our kids off with their grandparents who live in Central Oregon and pick them up. It was always at the Alpine Inn. This was our central point, so nostalgic and exciting to be back here today. Thank you all.
Harish?
Harish Patel, owner of Hampton Inn in Pendleton and Quality Inn in Coos Bay.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Rowe. I live in Klamath Falls, and I own Crater Lake Zipline. I'm excited to be here, and thanks to all of you for being here to participate.
Hi, David Grimmels, founder of Rogue Creamery, commissioner at large, and I just have to say I'm just so touched by the reception I've received here. I spent the day yesterday on Mount Head Meadows. It was such a perfect day up there, and so again, just really touched by the reception of all that work there and their graciousness and appreciation for the landscape that surrounds this beautiful area. Thank you for having us.
Hello, my name is Greg Willits. I have Five Pine Lodge and Shibui Spa in lovely Sisters, Oregon. And I want to say some of the commissioners have mentioned they're excited by the warmer than expected weather. I, however, am not. I have done my part praying for snow, and I hope others will follow suit. Thank you very much for having us up here, and I look forward to coming back when there's great snow.
And I am Lucinda DeNovo, Director of Sales at the Mill Casino Hotel and RV Park, owned and operated by the Coquille Indian Tribe. I am one of those commissioners that is thrilled that it's sunny because I don't like driving in snow. So let's ask for the snow to come on Thursday when we have left this beautiful, beautiful region. And last but not least.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Todd Davidson, I'm the CEO at Travel Oregon. Lizzie, thank you for everything you did to help us prepare and plan for our meetings and our events and our dinners up here. Just a warning to all of you at Skyway, what they call the boat of the pulled pork mac and cheese, it's a stinking freighter. Okay, so just know that going in. Go hungry. So.
Thank you, Todd. I also would like to acknowledge the amazing hospitality we received last night at Skyway Bar and Grill, and to Busy Bee Catering and the Alpine Event Center. Thank you for your hospitality and delicious meal and beautiful venue. With that said, before I turn this over to Todd, I want to call out a employee who recently had a birthday and who's worked diligently to make sure that the commissioners are prepared for today. So I would like to acknowledge and sing, because I'm that type of chair, happy birthday to Matt. So if you will all join me in wishing Matt a happy birthday. And here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Matt. Happy birthday to you. Okay, today's briefing also provides us with some extended time to hear from and engage with staff regarding topics that have been a focus area for Travel Oregon and Oregon's tourism industry. I will now turn this program over to Todd to introduce the topics.
Thanks. Thank you, Lucinda. And I just want to pick up on the theme that you just laid down, and that is that this briefing was started intentionally by the Commission several years ago, because we realized that a 3-hour public meeting didn't afford us the opportunity to really be able to do the deeper dives into so many of the programs that are happening. And so the commission suggested that we add a briefing component where we could maybe choose a topic or two that we would be able to do that deeper dive in to hear more about the program and just better understand some of the mechanics of the programs and such as we go along. And today we're doing exactly that. And we have two very specific agenda items that we're bringing forward today. One is an update on our stewardship investment programs. And the second is really a review or recap, an update on the process that we're proposing for approaching the 2025-27 strategic plan and budget. So the first up is going to be an update on our stewardship investment program, and I'd like to invite Michelle Woodard, who is our stewardship investment director, Don Smallman, who is our stewardship investment manager, and Deb Vaughn, who is our grants manager, to come up and provide us with this update. Michelle, it's good to see you. And commissioners, while they're getting situated, I will draw your attention to the fact that you do have a handout in front of you that's highlighting the most recent awards from the Wine Country License Plate Grant Program, roughly $433,000 that was just recently granted. So with that, Michelle, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Todd. Good afternoon, commissioners. As Todd said, I'm Michelle Woodard, Director of Stewardship Investments. Nice to see you all. I'm sorry I missed folks in Madras. We were actually just finishing accepting applications for our Oregon Wine Country License Plate Matching Grant Program, and I was helping onboard 2 new staff. So I am very excited to be able to introduce the staff to you. You're going to hear a little bit more from them in detail in a few moments, but to my right is Grants Manager Deb Vaughn, and to my left is our Stewardship Investment Manager, Don Smallman. So more from them in a minute. As a reminder, so I'm just going to touch on a few things about the direction of our investments team. And as a reminder, in our organizational design, to help best support the work that was outlined in our 10-year vision, the investments team was born with this desire to be able to expand from our required to operate programming. So those are our grant programs that are required by statute, but to also include broader investments and working to create new funding programs or to create structure surrounding existing programs, and using an eye in those programs towards clear and consistent process, equity, transparency, and accountability. So Don's going to touch on 2 new areas of internal collaboration that we've undertaken, and one of our future projects is to create a process around sponsorship requests and award. So in a nutshell, we're looking at being more effective, efficient, and equitable in the award of funds across the agency. All of this, of course, is in support of our strategies, which are outlined in that 10-year vision to help the tourism industry. So in previous presentations, I've touched on the significant shift in the grants and funding dynamics since COVID. There was so much need and so much emphasis on how to support that need through grant programs that Travel Oregon and other funders were working at a really frenetic pace. Since March of 2020, our grants and now investments team has administered 495 awards. The desire for funding and the need for funding has been significantly magnified. I'm excited because I feel as though we're coming out of this environment where our work was strategic and responsive, but also really reactive. And with Dawn and Deb's addition, and they're getting close to 90 days here at the agency, we're really working to stabilize programming while learning to grow. We're slowly moving to a state of being proactive. We're going to focus on creating consistent funding timelines, building stronger relationships to better understand the needs and help folks to be successful in their pursuit and in the award of funds. And we're also going to be more intentional in showcasing the impacts that funding has on communities. We've talked about this for a while. We're hoping with just this added staff, we'll really be able to live into some of these things. And I do want to touch on a question that I was told that came up at one of the Commission Finance Committee meetings surrounding what type of due diligence is taking place to ensure that awarded grant funds are spent properly. So this is something that we take very seriously as an investments team and as an agency. So a couple of things happen with our grant programs. With the exception of our COVID emergency response grants, which was a single disbursement of funds, our grant programs are reimbursement based. So depending on the program, we have different thresholds for what that initial disbursement of funds looks like. And as we were transitioning from our COVID response, we dispersed 90% of the award at the start of a project to folks. And from there, we held back that final 10% of funds until the project was completed. So we asked to see proof of spending of those grant funds before we disperse any additional dollars outside of our initial disbursement. So we really need to see how the funds were spent before we release more money. And there's been there's two instances in which we take back money. So we've taken back money from folks if funds are not properly spent, and it's clear how you should spend your grant award because there's a budget that's tied to the agreement that we have with folks. And that budget is what's been approved for expenditures. The other time is when a project comes in under budget and not all the grant dollars are used. So we'll ask for a return of funds. So what we've done is we've really worked to find the sweet spot in terms of our initial disbursement. We don't want to take funds back, but we want to have people have some seed money or some start money to be able to get a project off the ground. So for our 2023 and our 2024 competitive grant cycle, we are dispersing 50% of the grant award up front, and then it becomes reimbursement based. And we actually increased the threshold for our Oregon Wine Country license plate matching grant program so that we're similarly mirroring this award of 50% of funds up front being dispersed. So it's our goal that these projects are successfully completed, and a part of that is a proper usage of funds. So we want people to find success, and then we want to be able to share what success looks like. So this industry, the travel and tourism industry, is about people, right? It's about how you make people feel. And we're all in service to others. I don't know if this has been done at a commission meeting before, but I wanted to recognize all of you on the commission for your dedication and your commitment to this industry. You're volunteering your time and your expertise to serve in this capacity. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being engaged. It means a lot. I'm a native Oregonian, a third-generation Ashlander, so my ties to the state run deep, and I'm proud to be in service to the state and to this industry. It's an honor to be a steward of these dollars and to help develop and administer funding programs. I'm here because I know this work is meaningful and it does great things. So it's really a pleasure that I have to be able to be joined by two new teammates that share similar sentiment. So I'm going to pass the baton now to Travel Oregon Stewardship Investment Manager Dawn Smallman, so you're able to get to know her better and the work that she's managing.
Thanks, Michelle. Hello. Nice to see you all and meet you all. I'm Dawn Smallman, the new Stewardship Investment Manager, as Michelle mentioned. I started mid-August, and joining Travel Oregon's been a thrilling, fast ride on a moving train. I'm happy to be here to present to you today some of the first work that I've been able to engage with at Travel Oregon, and give you a little bit about my background too. While I'm at Travel Oregon, I'm going to be managing our 2 wine country distribution programs, the Wine Country License Plate Matching Grant, which you're going to hear more about today, and our Tourism Promotion Distribution Program. I'm going to be working with the Stewardship Investments programs and across all the folks in our team to build transparent and equitable processes for funding awards and for public engagement in our programs. A little bit by background, before starting with Travel Oregon, I was with Oregon Humanities for 3 years. I ran 2 grant programs, their public programs grant, which awarded $100,000 annually to humanities projects that supported and grew community. And I helped shape their public programs grant to deliver 100% of their awards to their 2 identified funding priority groups of the organization, which was Black, Indigenous, and people of color led and serving organizations, and rural located and serving organizations. I also launched and ran their grant for rural libraries, which awarded $50,000 annually, and that grant was created as a way of supporting the often economically underserved parts of rural parts of our state. I also administered over $750,000 in federal emergency COVID SHARP grants during my time there, and I led the organization, which was staff and leadership included, in a 7-month collaborative process to update our Equity Lens Handbook, which was an internal guidance document for our internal protocols and practices, and it was also a public-facing document, a public-facing statement about how we threaded equity through all of our work. Prior to that, I worked at the Hollywood Theater for 8 years. There I managed a fiscal sponsorship program, which gave our 501c3 status to film projects, film festivals, and their programs. I was also the founding director of the Portland Eco Film Festival, which in 8 years I grew to be the largest environmental film festival in the Pacific Northwest. And I managed special community event screenings and benefit events that benefited the community both culturally and financially. Before that, I had a very long run as a producer-director of documentary films made for museums and public lands visitor centers, and most of those focused on topics that were ecological and cultural. What I've been up to at Travel Oregon so far. The first thing I've been working on right out of the gate has been managing and learning the Wine Country License Plate Matching Grants program. As you likely know by now, commissioners, Travel Oregon is required to administer this matching grant program and the regional distribution program as well. Both are in state law and statute. This year's matching grant awards, and as they mentioned, you have a copy of the awards, paper copy on your desk. But this year's awards, we awarded just short of $434,000 to 14 awardees. This was awarded, the funding went out on November 21st, and we are super excited to be able to boast that this is the largest award in the history of the grant. We received 27 eligible applications, so the total ask that came in of the eligible applications was $764,000. So you're not going to be surprised to hear me say that the number one thing I saw in seeing these grant applications for the first time is that the need for funding is really significant. We read a lot of narratives in these grants that tell us the story of where folks are at right now. Industry visitation is not yet back to the pre-pandemic levels, and so people are really trying to get creative and think of ways and really push their organizations forward to reestablish that level of visitation, and this grant is great that it helps support those efforts. We read a lot of applications from smaller industry operators. We read one application about folks interested in developing a new AVA for a region that doesn't currently have one. And then I wanted to highlight, we obviously love all the grantees that are on the screen right now. We were really excited to award all of those. Our review committee had a very difficult process in making the decisions of the awards, but there's two in particular I'd like to point out because I think they kind of stood out to me as where things are at right now in Oregon for wine folks. And that is we gave 2 awards to the Oregon Wine Board. One award was $50,000 to develop an industry-wide 5-year wine tourism strategic plan that establishes consistent guidelines and direction for messaging for all regions to tell Oregon's unique wine story in a compelling, personal, and engaging way. The second grant was also for $50,000 to the Oregon Wine Board, and that was to support the long-term financial stability of 3 regional wine marketing associations by engaging with a CPA firm and a strategic planning consultancy to develop strategic financial sustainability plan for each association. Next slide, please. Also, I wanted to mention that our recently revised organizational structure is strengthening our programs through new internal collaborations within the destination stewardship team. There's been 2 other programs I've worked on in the 3 months. One of them you're seeing on the screen, which is the Recreation Ready program that Destination Services is spearheading, and we are collaborating with them on it. It's the inaugural year of this program. It's open for applications. Currently, will close at the end of this week. Next week, we'll have a review committee that will be looking at those applications. So the work I've been collaborating so far with them has centered on developing program guidelines that define the program to the public and lead the application process in an open and transparent manner. We've also been working on things like scoring rubrics that are presented to the public so the public understands how the decisions are being made about who will get these awards, what is the value of each question in the application, how it's being rated by the review committee, just so folks really understand how to write a strong application by looking at that kind of rubric, and then also understand when they see the decisions that are being made for entry into participating in the program, they have the backup of the rubric to explain to them why their application was scored and valued the way it was. I'm also helping them evaluate applications for eligibility when they come in next week, and I'm going to be helping set up the review committee that will reach consensus on who will be invited to participate in Phase 1 of the program. Phase 1 does not have any funding. Phase 2 does have funding in it, so it's the hopes that the folks who are in Phase 1 are going to receive a huge amount of technical support to develop programs that they have in the works to serve their community, and then they will seamlessly go into Phase 2 where they will receive the funding. I've also been assisting on the regional services with the regional services team's efforts on their CRI program, which is the Collaborative Regional Investments Program. Their application process was underway when I started, and so I stepped in to help them read applications for eligibility, and I helped them assess which of the budgets in the applications looked like sound budgets. A lot of folks we let return back for another crack at budgets that didn't look sound, but we wanted to nurture and help people understand how to build really solid project budgets as they're entering programs. And that's a bunch from me. Michelle, you look like you want to weigh in. Oh, no, you're passing the mic to my colleague, Deb Vaughn. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Dawn. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Deb Vaughn, and I'm so pleased to be here with you so soon after joining the Travel Oregon staff, just a few days after Dawn. So if she sounds like she knows more than me, it's because she really got a head start at the beginning there. I was born and raised in Portland and have lived in Salem since 2008. And for over 16 years, excuse me, I didn't mean to move the slide, I meant to move my notes. For over 16 years, I've made my career as a grants manager, both at the Oregon Arts Commission and most recently at the Oregon Community Foundation. In those roles, I have stewarded public and private dollars, always with an eye to equity. I see grant making as a way to enact my values of honesty, integrity, and vulnerability. And I do this by putting relationship development first and then diving deeply into the why of processes that are often taken as givens in program administration. And I pride myself on bringing that attitude to every position that I've had in this field, and joining this team is such a great place to be continuing to ask those questions. During my tenure at the Oregon Arts Commission, I'm proud to share that I developed a national model for students who are deaf who use American Sign Language to participate in poetry recitation contests. And I share that with you because that exemplifies my commitment to equity for all, and in stepping into unknown spaces to make that a reality. And then while I was employed at the Oregon Community Foundation, I project managed the implementation of their first online grant review platform. And I share that very opposite experience with you to show you that I also really value creating systems and processes that contribute to efficiency and equity as well. So I am really excited to bring my emphasis on inclusion and systems development to Travel Oregon's investments team and work with these two wonderful humans seated next to me. You do need to know that I am an avid musical theater fan, so I can often be found doing jazz hands. That is the license plate on my car. If I ever cut you off on the freeway, you'll know it's because I was singing along to the Wicked soundtrack. I also spend time organizing the local feminist book club in Salem, and I sing with the award-winning Oregon Spirit Chorus. The initials after my name, I have an MFA, Master's in Fine Arts, but I am also a certified nonprofit program evaluator, which also plays into the rubric conversations that Dawn and I enjoy having. So, as Dawn mentioned, we really jumped into the work at Travel Oregon. I'm not sure if you know this, but things don't slow down here. And so we really are both learning as we go. And while the information you'll see on my slides is reflective of the 2023 competitive grant cycle, which will, those projects will mostly wrap up in this coming April, the words that I'm gonna say are really talking about the next cycle, which we just opened for LOIs, letters of interest, on Monday. So everything's happening at the same time, and so that's just the dynamic nature of the program that we run. But I wanted to clarify that ahead of time because we're dealing with two different years at the same time. So last year, 2023, we funded about 25% of the projects that requested funding. And I'm very excited to report that we are going to be supporting even more excellent work around the state in the coming year with a larger than last year award budget. So the last cycle, we awarded $3.6 million statewide to 56 projects, and our planned budget for the next award cycle is $5.2 million. So Michelle told me I'm not allowed to math on the fly, but if you were looking at my previous slide, it says how many grant award dollars I've stewarded in my career, so you can add it up and check with me later because I've got it written down now. So we're really, before I move on, I want to say that in addition to that $5.2 million, we also, because in this grant program we fund infrastructure and construction costs, and we know that those prices have continued to rise and rise and rise, we were also able to increase the total maximum award amount from $100,000 to $150,000. So we see that as a way that we are being responsive to the needs in the field. Things cost more, contracting costs more, and we want our applicants to be able to continue to complete those projects with our significant support. In the next cycle, you'll also see a continued focus on those infrastructure investments and also marketing projects. Those two areas of focus are as a result of the feedback we got in the industry survey. So we continue to hear from our partners that those two areas are where we should keep money flowing, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So again, reflecting back on the cycle that is coming to a close, you'll hear directly from several of those grant recipients in tomorrow's presentation, but I wanted to highlight just a couple more quickly for you today because as Michelle said, we're really working to share with you the impact of your investment. So the Pendleton Chamber of Commerce last year received no math on the fly, $57,600 to support increased marketing for the Jackalope Jamboree. This is an annual multi-day music and arts festival. And what they did with our funds is by sharing opportunities for visitors to attend and celebrate the amazing diverse array of artists that they highlight, including Indigenous creator Akosia Red Elk, who's pictured on the slide. The 2024 Jamboree saw a 48% of their attendees coming for the very first time, which is incredible. And they also boosted their social media content as a part of this project, and they've seen a 25% increase in followers across their social media platforms. And that was a direct result of the funds that Travel Oregon's provided. The other project I want to touch on briefly was support to the Rockaway Beach Chamber of Commerce. That was a grant award of $93,854 for infrastructure to support upgrades to the pathway leading up to their visitor center. It's the Caboose and Depot. It's in the picture above. It's located on the waterfront. Because of our funding, they were able to remove tree roots, cracked pavement, and other obstacles, and create a more welcoming approach for all visitors, including those using assistive mobility devices. But what's exciting to me is that beyond that original intent, the Chamber reports now that business owners are receiving compliments from shoppers on the regular, and that many community members have thanked them for making the area more safe and accessible, and not just people who use mobility-assisted devices. So I think that's a great example of how these investments have a ripple effect beyond the initial project intent. One of the things, though, that I've been learning as I've been looking at these grants from last year is that a really significant number of applicants leaned into the opportunity to complete ADA accessibility upgrades to their spaces. This is that really tangible physical improvements to space to make it more accessible, particularly to people with mobility needs. And while this is really critical work, it represents just one aspect of Travel Oregon's broader mission to make Oregon a more welcoming destination. So in the next cycle, we made the decision to change the word accessibility to access. This seems like something simple, but I see you nodding. It means something different. It broadens the definition. And our intention here is to do just that, understanding so that applicants can understand a broader potential use of funds. We used an extensive stakeholder feedback process to inform the expanded list of preferred projects based on this language shift that is published in the grant guidelines. And we are looking forward to learning even more from our applicants about how they see this work as they begin to use this broader lens. The other thing that I learned is that some regions were more successful than others in aligning their proposals with the grant guidelines. This sometimes results in an uneven distribution of funds across the areas of the state. And so the slide lists some of the additional resources that I'm providing this year in an effort to even some of that out. So as Dawn mentioned, publishing a rubric of scored criteria to align understanding between applicants and the reviewers. Adding additional resources in the grant guidelines themselves, directing applicants to other places where they can learn more about how to strengthen their proposals. I'm joining existing RDMO meetings whenever possible so that I can answer questions and emphasize that regional collaboration. And then finally, we're offering a total of 7 informational webinars to grantees. 2, we've already hosted and reached over 100 people with that combined time, doing a broad overview of the grant program. We have 3 coming up that are topic-specific sessions. So we'll do one about broadening access and inclusion, we'll do one about marketing, and we'll do one about building strong project budgets. And then the final tool will be open drop-in office hours right next to the LOI deadline. As people are putting the finishing touches and just need a moment to connect with staff, they'll know when and where they can drop in. They can also reach me via email, but we just wanted them to know we're here and we're listening. In the long term, we know that the goal is that Oregon is known as a welcoming destination for all. We've already talked about the near-term objective that we're setting as a priority, which is to increase access and inclusion. And we're going to continue to do that through investing in infrastructure projects and marketing projects. This is a slide that I've shared with applicants as well. I know you're all familiar with this program, but this gives you a way to see how my brain is thinking through the different components of the program. And then just for context, I wanted to share the timeline for the program coming up. We are going to continue to use an LOI, a very abbreviated proposal, as a way for applicants to save time. This allows them to present us with initial concept. We'll look it over and we'll provide them with feedback. Our goal is really to coach every applicant to a successful proposal, and that's where we're coming to the table at. We have the webinars, and so we've really we've reiterated that to them multiple times that we're here to help. The deadline to submit those LOIs is January 15th. As I mentioned, it opened Monday, so we're accepting proposals now. My inbox is full of them. But I still have a call to action to all of you. I hope that with the information that we've been able to provide today, you can help us find the most exciting, diverse, statewide group of projects to review in this grant cycle so that 1 year from now, I can come back and we can be celebrating all of those amazing investments that we made. So that's my request, and I look forward to working with you through the cycle.
Thanks, Deb. I think this is on. You all know how I like to have grant awardees come back in and share their successes, so I have to just finish by saying I'm really excited about the 3 folks that are coming in tomorrow that you're going to be able to hear directly from. Again, this is all about people, right? And hearing their story. And I think one of the most exciting and thrilling things for me, and I feel for Deb and for Dawn as well, is being able to hear those stories and see what the impact is, because that helps us as we move through this process of creating these equitable programs and being able to see, oh, wow, this made a difference. So we're open for questions.
Michelle, Don, Deb, thank you so very much. Commissioners, questions or comments from any of you at this time? Mr. Pendleton.
Well, it's not really a question, but I just want to say, Michelle, thank you for recognition of the work the commission does. But to be honest with you, you guys are the ones that do the work, and we're just so appreciated to be a part of a team, the Travel Oregon team that does what you do. And I've always had a lot of respect for you, but with Deb and Don, I'm probably more excited now because you got 2 new big guns here. So very excited and great presentation and very informative. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Scott.
Michelle, thank you as always. I too am so excited for tomorrow to hear from grant recipients. It's like a miracle every time we get to hear those stories. So thank you. The question, though, is for Deb and Dawn, respectively. I was so grateful for you to spend a moment talking about your respective backgrounds and where you've been in the run-up to your arrival at Travel Oregon. But I have to ask the question, what drew you to Travel Oregon? You've both got such remarkable and diverse and incredibly prescient and relevant backgrounds. Why here? Why us? Why now?
Listen, Commissioner, we already passed our interviews. So, I mean, what are we going to... But you know what? We haven't hit 90 days, so we better nail this one. I will say, having worked in public service previously when I was with the Oregon Arts Commission, part of Business Oregon, I love public service, and it sounds kind of like a nerdy thing to say, but there is something about the public accountability, the transparency, and the really breaking down we're from the government, we're here to help, snarky narrative, and really making that mean something genuine and real that I love. And for my own career, there is, listening to Dawn's job description here at Travel Oregon, I am not jealous, and I love that I have this opportunity to really wrap my arms around one significant, impactful grant program and give that all of my love and attention. I have a single child by choice, and one and done, and I think that works for my grant programs as well. So diving deep and really making this program the best it can be. And I love Oregon. I was born and raised here. This is my home, so.
Boy, I don't think I can top that. I will say that I love building things from the ground up. Yeah, I love being always investing myself deeper into community. I love demystifying processes and helping people get to money. And all those, I find all that work to be very, very satisfying. There's something about having been a working artist who relied on grants, federal grants, local grants, and things like that to do my own professional work for years, and knowing how hard it is to get to the money, that it's so thrilling and fun to be on the other side to help people get to the money, to understand how to write a strong application, to take all the materials that you get when applying for a grant or where you're looking at a program and think, and you have a group of advocates at an organization who say, don't worry, come to our help session. We'll take you by the hand. We'll lead you through the weeds. We'll answer your questions. Like, I just love doing that community work. It just fills my heart. And so maybe that's not a good technical answer, but it's a truthful one.
Sold.
Deb, Michelle, and Dawn, kudos to all of you for the passion you're bringing to your programs. It's really exciting to see all of the things that you're conquering and taking on. In one of my past lives, I worked as a grant administrator, so I'm going to geek on you for just a second with a question, a more technical question. Michelle, you mentioned that that you were lowering the percentage of funds that applicants receive or grantees receive. And so I'm curious, when we have this diaspora in Oregon that has big DMOs, and big organizations and small DMOs and small organizations, have you had feedback from any of our partners in the rural parts of Oregon or smaller DMOs that may not have as much cash on hand, that's made it a little bit harder for them to access funds because they may not have all of the cash that they need to complete the project if Travel Oregon isn't awarding it all on the front end, which I know is a challenge to balance against holding people accountable and making sure projects are getting to completion. So I think that's probably an easier lift for bigger organizations, but how is that logistically working with some of our smaller organizations and DMOs?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, and it's funny, we were actually talking in the car. Deb and I were riding up with Kathleen in finance, and again, it's the balance, right? Like the balance of accountability with the balance of trust and need and these other aspects of funding. And so to answer your question, yes, we have heard from some of our folks that are smaller entities, rural communities, that there is a challenge there, right? And we saw this also when we awarded our capacity funds, and we had a threshold that was different based on the size of the budget. And so a lot of our smaller entities could only receive a smaller amount of funds, and our large entities received larger amount of funds. And so at that point, it stood out as well, where it's like, hey, well, we actually need more help when we're smaller. And so I think it's this challenging dynamic of how we can balance that, right? How do we balance the need? How do we still ensure that accountability is there? What we found, if we just go back to that dispersal, what we found when we were awarding at 90%, like that's really where we wanted to sit. We wanted to hold some funds back, and so we're making sure people are completing their projects. Like that is something we definitely need to have some sort of goal there at the end to ensure that people are completing these to get that final payment. And we've learned that through some barriers previously. But we also had a lot of folks that were coming in under budget too. And so that's where it's like, hey, what is that sweet spot? And we found a comfort level at 50% to be like, okay, this seems to be running all right. With that 2023 cycle that Deb has referred to, we've heard only one so far comment come up about the need for more resource. And so that's pretty good when there's 56 applications. And so far we've only heard one, and we're past the midpoint. So we're like, okay, let's keep that threshold for this current 2024 cycle. But I think it's something that we're going to continue to reflect on. And I'm very excited to have 2 new staff members to kind of dive into their brain trust of how they think that we can help navigate through this, because it is an ever challenge that we'll face.
I just want to take this moment to, one of the things I appreciate most about Travel Oregon is that we're a learning organization. And every time you come before us, you take the learnings from the previous year and you apply them for accessibility and for more people to receive those dollars. And I was watching you specifically, Michelle, when Deb and Dawn were presenting, and this look of sheer satisfaction that there is an A-team, right, sitting at this table and the work that you're doing. And so I just want to commend you. And ladies, I'm so excited for the work that you've done. I look forward to the work going forward. I accept your challenge. I will make sure to spread the word, and hopefully next year we'll have an amazing a group of grantees to review. So thank you for all of your work.
I like the idea of spreading it around the fund, but do you have any criteria where no single project gets more than certain percent? Because looking at here, almost 25% has gone just for the wine board. Not I'm questioning, I'm just curious if you have any criteria.
Yeah, I'll actually speak to the wine grants because that's a unique program in the sense that we've struggled to get enough applications for that program. And so we do allow 2 applications per entity, and that's what you see in particular with the Oregon Wine Board, as they, again, are close to a quarter of the funds went to that one entity. I won't say that's by design, but the design was to allow multiple projects per entity because of our struggle in getting people to apply and our desire, if there's good projects, to get money into play instead of sitting on those dollars. For a program like our competitive grants program, which is 10% of Travel Oregon's budget, we aren't allowing multiple applications. So we are, again, using that framework of ensuring that money is getting to all corners of the state, and we're not, again, focused on a single entity receiving multiple grants.
Thank you.
I'd like to add to that, the 2 Wine Country Awards that were made this time were really unique, and that's part of why I wanted to highlight them. And there was a really interesting discussion during our review committee meeting about this aspect of them. Each of those is a grant that funds across a bunch of different regions. So all the other applications were people applying for doing the work in their own region, but these 2 applications from the Wine Board service multiple regions across the state. So I think they really stand out in that way. So they did get a good chunk of funding, but that funding then is going to be serving many, many, many different parts of the state.
Good, thank you.
Michelle, I want to thank you for your meaningful and impactful work. And, you know, in addition to efficient and equitable and effective, what I've seen in the language that Deb and Dawn and yourself have shared, that this work is also inclusive and diverse. And I really appreciate the work and the passion that's being brought to this grant process. And welcome, Deb and Dawn. I'm really excited to hear the passion and know that these programs will grow and the funding will increase, particularly with Dawn being a master gardener as well. You know, it's all about growth. And Deb, with your experience with the Oregon Community Foundation, I know that these programs will grow and expand and have a positive impact in our community. Thank you all.
Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? All right. I just want to add my thanks real quick before you guys leave the table, because the themes that I'm hearing up here from the members of the commission, I know are themes that you guys all cherish and hold very, very close. Michelle knows probably better than anybody else in this room how excited I get because of how excited she gets when she gets an email from somebody that might have gotten a grant for like $912.72, but they are thrilled with what they were able to do with that modest amount of money, and they're the ones sending in the profuse thank you email, and Michelle will print it off or forward it to me, or when we had offices that were adjacent to one another, she would run over and share it with me. It's her heart for this program and her heart for serving this industry that comes through, and if I may, I think has helped draw the Dawns and the Debs to this work, because they see the leadership that Michelle brings to this work and they see the passion. that she brings to this work. You mentioned being a learning organization. Around Travel Oregon, you'll often hear us use the phrase testing and trying, or test and try. We've also occasionally added to that, it's, test, try, reflect, and adapt. But it's usually just paraphrased as testing and trying. And what I will tell you is, as we went through the organizational design process, as we launched that almost 2 years ago now, we kind of looked at one another and thought, if we get this 85% right, we did okay. Because we know we're going to need to adapt as we move along and begin filling some of these positions that we anticipate. But Michelle's the one that reached out to me and said, I need to meet with you. And we scheduled a 1-hour meeting that became a 3-hour meeting on a picnic bench in a city park in Salem. And we talked about the future of stewardship investments. And what you see from that conversation is sitting at this table before you now. So, Michelle, I just want to thank you again for your leadership. Deb and Dawn, thank you for the passion that you're bringing to this work, especially to just kind of breed success, because you're not sitting there with that rubber stamp waiting to stamp denied. You're trying to find some way to help, and it shows. It shows in the work that you do. So thank you for what you do. Appreciate you guys a lot. So thanks for the presentation today.
Thanks, Tom.
All right.
So I think we're going to take a 10-minute break. So we will join up again at what time are we going to join?
2:35.
2:35.
I had that circled on here that said insert 10-minute break, question mark, but then I didn't.
I'm going to need to sit somewhat close so I can reach the thing.
Let's sit right next to each other so we look like, we are a dynamo team right here.
Just two of you? Yep, just do us.
Take these two chairs if you would, and I can change that shot a little
Will
bit.
do, yeah.
Does that work?
Yep.
And there's no one else joining you, is that
Nope.
Okay, perfect.
You're also very, very close today. You're very close. You're right here. I know, it's like... Yeah. Do you want to give it a whirl?
Say that again?
You want to give it a whirl?
I just gave it just so I know which button. So we're
But
good.
that's not changing that.
It's not set up for the screen for YouTube.
Oh. I wish you were staying tonight so we can drink a lot of beer together.
I drink enough beer over Thanksgiving, so.
Oh, I know. I actually had an NA
It looks
last
very
night.
wintry outside with all the frost.
Oh, yeah, I had a NA because over the holidays, and it's just like out of control. What's he doing?
He's refocusing the camera probably, so it can get nice and tight. It's going to be hard to see what your last sentence is on here to know exactly when to transition. So if I miss it, just give me a...
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
How do we look?
Yeah, it was I thought about it. We were like in and out, like there was not enough. It's hard for me. But yeah, it was actually my first time. No problem. And it was fun. Like I just like we should come back down here. the problem is I have to reach. That's why I have to reach across my notes to hit the thing. We just moved. Now they're gonna be like, you just moved. So I tend to have to do the whole presentation like this.
All right, team, go get them.
Woohoo!
I'm so excited, Sarah. I'm so excited.
Good to see you.
You guys ready for this?
What are you doing up
Born
here?
ready.
Get out of here.
Born ready. Oh.
Sneak peeking.
I can't wait till you're going to have to do a commission meeting at some point, maybe. You think? Katie did a lot of commission meetings.
Yeah, potentially. This,
Let's do it at the governor's conference when the audience is like 400 people.
Perfect. Yeah, it's great. That's the only one I've been to besides this one.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's like 150 people.
Yeah, standing room only.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like when I'm tasked to present at that one, I'm like, oh God, kill me now.
I know, it's going to happen again where Todd's like, I want to bring the staff in to do like
Oh,
the
I
little
know. I know.
You're all set? Your resume and
I think so.
Okay.
As far as I know, I don't have a clicker, but other than
think
that,
that's
it's pretty good.
There's no pocket in here anyway.
It's right here, under the table. So I have to do this thing.
Oh, hi, Christine.
Yeah. Where am I clicking it?
It was my dad. Here, I got to show you this. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Christine. How are you? Give you a weird back hug. Yes.
Weird hugs all around.
I know you're going to present in a second, but I was just trying to text this to you because I was like, hey, it made me think of you, but it won't let me send it. But look, because it was my dad's birthday, 90th birthday too.
Oh, wow.
Wait, did it send
Oh,
it?
you going to send that to me?
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
It says like the house price was like $6,000.
Oh, God.
It's so cool.
Oh, that's so cool.
I'll send it
Okay,
my
all right.
Break leg, you guys.
Someone asked me the other day if we still do the Travel Oregon Forever Fund. Is that a thing?
I mean, it comes up every now and then, but it's not something
Dipty was doing research on
proactively.
environmental sustainability, and we found something from U.S. Travel that says Travel Oregon's great thing. It was like Travel Forever Fund, and we got all this call out. I'm like, I don't think we do that.
Yeah. But some people still have the stickers on their businesses,
Yes.
I've noticed.
And the bike-friendly business, I see those around as well.
There we go. It works. This is nice. This is a gift for your
It
director
was.
promotion.
It was from my mom. He gave it to me for
Nice.
Father's Day.
Oh,
I had
nice.
another one, and I saw, who was it? Bob Hackett had a leather one at one of the meetings. I was like, ooh,
No, that's cool.
that looks cool. So
Does it have your initials on it or anything?
not this one. It's an heirloom. No,
No.
I don't know.
Is it an heirloom?
No. Did you feel the heater just blowing?
Oh
on
my
you?
God, I was
just
like,
I need
Jesus,
some.
I'm gonna get an ear infection right now. Did you think that?
Not ear infection.
No, whenever I have like just air blowing in my ear, I think it's when I was a kid, I'd get ear infections so easily. Knock on wood. Yeah, but, you didn't stay here last night.
I did.
Yeah, so the room, the heater is so loud, but you can't turn it off because it gets so cold.
Yeah, I'm so used to sleeping with sound machines with the kids now that
Yeah.
I was like, that's no problem. I was like, I don't know how the design of the shower was so poor. Like water covered the whole place. Like
Mine
there was,
wasn't like that. Maybe
like
mine at home
the
is
opening for where it was just like the glass wall, but it was like so short.
much- yeah.
It just
Oh, yeah,
it
yes.
was just spraying
Yeah.
everywhere. And I was just like, I had not enough towels. I'm like, this is poorly executed.
Do you have a pen? Can I borrow that?
Whichever one you want.
Shit.
I have a pen if you want a pen.
That's okay. What
Just
am
quit
I?
now.
What am
Just
I
quit now.
using?
Just quit. It's a mechanical pencil. You got it.
Yep. Where is he? Scott Youngblood to the dais. Scott Youngblood to the dais. I'm not gonna get up. Scott Youngblood to the dais. Scott Youngblood to the dais.
I'm really excited about the new additions to that grant team.
All right. Okay, if we can all find our seats, we're going to go ahead and reconvene our next presentation. Commissioners, we're kind of on the, I guess I'll say kind of the cusp, at least the sense you're going to have is we're kind of on this cusp of our 2025-27 biennial plan and budget process. Obviously, though, there's been a lot of work that's been going into this presentation, and what we want to bring forward today is a proposed approach to how we should go about our planning for 25-27 in terms of our programs, in terms of our strategies and our priorities and the like. So with that, it is my pleasure to turn this portion of our agenda over to Petra Hackworth, who is our Vice President of Insights and Impact, and Brian Mullaney, who is our Director of Strategy, Research, and Analytics.
All right.
Brian gets paid by the syllable.
Yes. Thank you, Todd. I do want to mention that as we are diving deep into the 25-27 biennial planning, we're also very focused on closing out the current plan that we're in. We still have 6.5 months to go, and I know Brian keeps us all very focused on that. But like Todd said, we're going to share with you today our new approach for the next biennial plan. So I'm here with Brian, our Director of Strategy, Research, and Analytics. We're going to give you an update on the organization's process and progress to develop our next biennial plan. Our biennial plan and budget is an externally published, statutorily required 2-year strategic document. While it informs our internal work at a high level for the biennium ahead, it is also a vital way to inform the industry and the public of our focus areas and the work we plan to accomplish within the next 2 years. This is the first time we're bringing the commissioners in so early in the process. We want to bring you in early so when you see the draft in March, you're not surprised by what you see, but you're excited by what you see. So today we'll cover a shift in the approach, and we'll highlight our recommendations on which strategies will be supported by the action planning process. As we work towards our strategic plan, our goal was to bring more cross-functional and industry collaboration into the biennial planning process to ensure our upcoming plan meets both internal and external needs. You'll hear more about this in our upcoming slides, but our process included a data-driven approach supported by strategic insights from our leadership team and the industry. As a reminder, our 19 strategies all align with our 4 objectives, which you've all heard, but as a refresher, Oregon's tourism economy is flourishing, Oregon is striving to be a place of equity, Oregon delivers remarkable experiences, and Oregon respects its natural environments. So internally, we call these the 4 E's. Highlighted here are our current strategies that were supported with the biennial action plan this biennium. And before we get into our biennial planning shifts, you may be asking yourself, where are we in our 10-year vision journey?
Well, that's a great question, Petra, so why don't I field that one?
Thank you.
Before you is the timeline for our journey, and the red line marks where we are currently sitting. At the close of our current 23-25 biennium, we will have 3 full biennial plans remaining and 1 half biennium to close out the current 10-year vision while simultaneously preparing for the next 10-year vision. As we work towards building out our next biennial plan, we need to keep in mind that at its conclusion in June of 2027, we'll be halfway through our 10-year journey. For this biennial planning cycle, we took the time to review our key learnings and make strategic adjustments. Our first learning was how we were communicating about our 19 strategies. In the last biennial plan, and through the current biennium, our communication has skewed too heavily towards our prioritized strategies and our action plans. We need to balance out the focus and our communication around our core delivery work and our required to operate work, so that the whole organization sees themselves within our plans. Our action plan work is no more important than our core delivery work and our required to operate work. And because of this, language around our prioritized strategies needs to shift. Going forward, we'll drop the prioritized language and just call them our 19 strategies. Additionally, we've been using this idea of wave 1 versus wave 2 when speaking about the timeline of our strategies, and that is something we're going to be moving away from as well. Our realization was that all 19 strategies were progressing through action plans and our core delivery work. Therefore, our biennial plans and the way we talk about them need to shift. We decided to bucket all we needed and decided to bucket all 19 strategies for the upcoming biennium into action plan, core delivery, or paused work to reflect the reality of what we were working on. And you can see the breakout of those strategies here. But you may be thinking to yourself, and I know Commissioner Youngblood is, Brian, what is the difference between an action plan and core delivery work? What determines if a strategy gets paused? Well, here we go. This past June, while we were all down in Medford, Petra and I ran through the strategic action planning process. But here's a quick refresher on the topic specific to the action plans. Once a strategy is selected and moved forward into action planning, a program lead and an executive sponsor will be selected by the executive team. The program lead is ultimately responsible for executing and developing and executing the action plan in line with our destination stewardship vision. The program lead will establish a cross-functional action planning team responsible for building out the project milestones in alignment with our 10-year strategic vision KPIs. The action plans have a biennial or 2-year focus and have a dedicated budget. Each plan's progress gets reviewed at our quarterly business reviews.
Thanks, Brian. So you may be wondering what core delivery is. Core delivery work makes up the bulk of the organization's workload, primarily carried out by functional teams within each department. It is comprised of programs and projects that are often repeated but should be reviewed annually. Core delivery work still aligns with our vision and impacts the 19 strategies. What is required to operate? Required to operate are all statutorily required processes such as welcome centers and the grants program. Wouldn't it be great if we had a visual that showed how our programs align with all 19 strategies?
That's such a great idea, Petra. Using internal data, we are now able to quickly visualize how our work categories map back to our 19 strategies. And while my intent isn't for you to be able to, that didn't move. Oh, what happened there? I'm on the wrong slide. I'm going backwards. There we go.
There we go.
And while my intent isn't for you to be able to read this visual from a distance, the color coding should highlight the dispersion of efforts related to these strategies listed on the x-axis of this beautiful descending bar chart. The visualizations here highlight how we currently have work mapped to all 19 strategies, not only from our strategic initiatives and action plans, but also to our core delivery and required to operate work. And it also illustrates why we need to shift our communication around these 19 strategies. And for those keeping score at home, you're probably asking yourself, what about that pause bucket? I'm very interested in learning more about that. Well, a strategy gets paused pending the completion of other strategies, when requiring yet to be hired staff, when other foundational elements need to be completed or developed, or when work is started but hasn't been fully built out within our core delivery work. And this brings us to the end of our shifts in the biennial planning process. But I bet the Commission is wondering how we decided on these strategies being tapped for the biennial planning process.
So the biennial planning process has encompassed our most comprehensive and collaborative work to date. The timeline you see here highlights engagements from our teams and data sets. Over the last 5 months, we've collected input from the tourism industry, met with our extended leadership team, which is compiled of the executive team, our strategists, and our directors. We've deliberated at the executive level, integrated new tourism industry feedback, and shared with the Travel Oregon team. Our extended timeline has allowed for robust discussion and data review while also positioning ourselves to complete the action plans prior to the start of the next biennium. Our goal with this new process is to make sure that come July 1, action plans and budgets are approved and teams can start executing on the work right away. To have visibility into some of these key discussions, we wanted to share some of the topics discussed in some of these planning meetings. In the July quarterly business review, the extended leadership team discussed and voted on the questions and topics you see here on this slide. These data points were then collected and shared with the exec team to deliberate on the next day. So the exec team reviewed the data from the prior day and developed a selection criteria to aid in choosing which strategies would move forward with action plans. It was during this discussion that resulted in this new idea of bucketing all strategies into either action plans, core work, or work that's being paused. At the end of the meeting, we landed on 6 strategies. And you may be asking yourself how we vetted these recommendations with the industry. And I know who has the answer to that.
I'll take that one, Petra. While the prior process and conversations were underway, the strategy, research, and analytics team was fast-tracking the early results from the Tourism Industry Partner Survey. For those not familiar with the survey, it seeks to collect feedback from workers connected to the tourism industry that will help inform our strategic direction and the direction of our regional partners. These early results related to the strategic planning were received in late October, and overall, we were very pleased with the response rate, coming in with 1,300 responses for the question set. Shown here are our top 4 industry sectors by percentage. DMOs, lodging properties, and food and beverage made up our top 3, while arts and culture, guides and outfitters, and attractions all tied for 4th. In terms of regional representation, the coast provided the largest number of responses, although they dipped in responses from the prior survey. All other regions maintained or grew their number of responses, which was great to see. In terms of the strategic planning questions, grants and tourism infrastructure remain the top 2 long-range planning areas for the tourism industry. We also saw strong interest in our environmental sustainability areas like climate action and regenerative tourism. Using this data set, my team developed a ranking criteria to ensure that the long-range planning areas listed here were either supported by our action plans or our core delivery work. In some instances, we prioritized lower-ranking long-term planning areas because they aligned with our strategic vision. For example, DEI-related areas ranked lower in priority, but the team opted to move forward with some strategies since they support our strategic vision objective that Oregon is a place of equity. So where did we land? And my brain always likes to see the before and after, or maybe in this case, the current and next. In the orange table on the left, you can see the list of strategies currently in progress with action plans. And on the right, and in blue, you can see the 25-27 action plan strategies. The strategies denoted with a star indicate strategies that are new for the next biennium. All of the strategies in blue met the executive team's selection criteria and were either supported by the Tourism Industry Partner Survey results or were supported by a 10-year strategic vision objective. On this slide, you can see the strategies moving forward with our core delivery work and our action plans. I always find it helpful to see everything in one place, so I will pause here for a moment for digestion. All right, I will conclude my dramatic pause by asking, where are we going from here, Petra?
Thanks, Brian. As you'll see in the timeline that we're going to pull up, this month, December, I can't believe it's December, the exec sponsors and leads for strategic action teams will be established. Early next year, we will kick off the strategic action planning teams and review our current programs and budget. In March, action plans will be presented to the exec team, and later that month, you, the commissioners, will receive the draft 25-27 strategic plan to review. In April, the strategic plan and budget will be presented to the Commission at the Governor's Conference, and directly thereafter, the plan will be posted for public comment. In May, there will be a virtual Commission meeting to hear public comment on the plan, and fingers crossed, at the June Commission meeting, the plan and budget will be approved and published. So we're all familiar with Travel Oregon's vision, but we thought this would be a great time to reground everybody. Oregon is a welcoming destination where tourism drives economic prosperity, benefits the natural environment, and celebrates rich, diverse cultures. With this presentation today, we've shared to you where we are today and where we'd like to go as we dive deeper into the biennial planning process. And as I mentioned at the beginning of our presentation, we're sharing this with you for the first time to seek your input on the process and the approach. So with that, we can take questions, or if you agree with our approach, you can just give me some smiles, a thumbs up, and we can be on our way.
And if you want to hear more from Brian and Petra, they'll be at the Mount Hood Brewing later tonight. Geez, you guys, it's like only thing missing is Jimmy Fallon. Any questions?
We have plans for the next one, believe me.
No, nicely done, seriously. Questions or comments, commissioners?
Thank you. I think the work that you've done makes it easier as a commissioner to understand. I want to take us back to our meeting in Madras, and you showed the KPIs to us, and you outlined some KPIs that we didn't have KPIs for yet. And so I just want to make sure before June, I think you promised to deliver those to the commission by the June meeting, and I just want to make sure that we are on point with that. I know this commission was very interested in the DEI KPI, so just ensuring that we are on point to make that happen.
Thank you for the question, Chair DeNovo. That is something we are actively working on. You are correct. We are actually shooting for the February Commission meeting to have a rundown of both the baseline of the KPIs for the ones we haven't established yet, as well as the KPI goals for the upcoming biennium as well. We've made significant progress in the baselining efforts right now. We still have a large amount of work to do on the goal setting side of it, but it's still in range for the February Commission meeting. But DIPTY has been hard at work, along with myself, in making sure that we are positioned to meet that deliverable.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and you met, I met DIPTY at the Madras meeting. I think that was her first commission meeting, and it'll be tight for February, but we're going to do our best to get it done by then.
Great, thank you.
Great question, thank you. Questions, comments?
This is probably a geeky question, but I'm just looking at the industry partner survey results and wondering, when you tally that information, is there a way to find out, for example, you have 15% from DMOs, what percentage of DMOs responded? So that's 15% of your total survey. Or if guides and outfitters are responding, if you have 9% in your survey, but what percentage of guides and outfitters, of all guides and outfitters in our state responded? Just be curious to see how are we getting back to you with those results within each sector.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it comes back to our ability to be able to get to the total. So I would look to my friends around to say, I think we have an idea of the total number of DMOs across the state. I don't know if we have a total read on the total number of guides and outfitters across the state. We do have our Y Guides registry and the program there, and we could definitely cross-check the response rate from them. We did a very extensive outreach to all the different tourism sectors across the state, reaching out to all of our partners and all of our organizations like ODA and some of the other organizations to make sure that we were getting the questions and the survey out in front of the largest sample as possible. But I'll look and see what we can get, Commissioner Rowe.
I was going to say, Brian, if I may, as a point of clarification, just looking at the percentage for DMOs at 15% of 1,300, right, was roughly what we got. So you're looking at about 195 responses from DMOs. I know those stewardship investment folks said don't do math on the fly, but I think I'm pretty close. My guess is we have more than one survey being filled out by staff at a DMO. In other words, there could have been 3 or 4 or 5 folks at Travel Portland that filled out the survey.
Correct.
So
yeah,
looking at it from an organizational standpoint versus the individual standpoint. So
I mostly just ask that because I want to understand better the different sectors in our industry, who's engaged, who's taking the time to give you feedback.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we'll dive into that and get you a slice of what we can get.
And as our new process allows, any questions that commissioners are asked will go back to the entire commission. So we'll all be informed together. Yep. So thank you for that question.
Yep.
On the topic of the industry partner survey, it's been a point of personal pain over the last few years, looking at the results of the survey and seeing how disproportionately low survey responses were coming from the Portland region. And so I was excited specifically this time to see that the Portland region's number of responses nearly doubled. And I would love to understand what steps, and this can be a response for later as well, but what actions occurred to help drive response improvement throughout the different sectors as well as geographic regions.
Other questions or comments? I'm taking that as smiles and thumbs up that Petra asked for, because, this is, I just think it bears noting this is a significant departure from the 2-year plan you're currently looking at for 23-25. Because our approach then was, let's select some of these strategies as priorities to go after. The realization was that we were doing work that actually was touching on all 19, and we were doing ourselves a disservice by not recognizing that and honing in on that even more robustly. And that's the change. And we're looking at, when you see something categorized as core work, it's like, this is going to primarily be owned by a functional team or department with elements of cross-functionality, whereas, as Brian noted, the action teams will be very cross-functional in nature because that's what the strategy lends itself to. So we're eager to get started. I know Petra has already has the exec team working on pending commission, I will call it approval of this direction. Already working on the formation of those action teams, because again, our intention is form those teams and be able to take their work between now and March to help inform the 25-27 plan and actually help drive the budget. So we'll have more staff involved in helping bring forward recommendations, suggestions for investments that we can be making in the next biennium as well. So I'm excited for the approach. It feels really right to me. I applaud Petra and Brian for the work that they've done in pulling this all together, and all the staff that are standing behind you that have worked to bring us to this point. Especially getting the survey done in the timeline that we had mapped out that was fairly accelerated, and yet the results are, obviously very credible, with 1,300 responses. So with that, if there are no other questions or no other comments, I'll just say thanks, you guys, very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
We'll be taking the show on the road. You can see it.
Yeah. All right. With that, Chair DeNovo, it is my pleasure to turn the podium, the mic, back over to you.
Great. Well, thank you. That concludes our staff presentations today. Are there any additional questions or business from commissioners? Okay. With that said, I'll remind everyone that tonight we have an opportunity to dine with local leaders and the tourism partners starting at 5:30 at Ant Farm Cafe in Sandy. And tomorrow, December 4th, we will be back here at 9 a.m. for the commission meeting. I'd like to thank staff again for all of your efforts for this great briefing. And with that said, meeting is adjourned.